For this edition of Film and Shows adaptation, ended up reading the end of Preacher because this is the end of the show and this is the end of the books. And I will also share some few things. They did change a bit G's Custer backstory. In the books, it's much darker than what we got in the show, and it was interesting as well. And we also had a different origin story for Arseface's new face, and it's very ugly. Anyhow, that was it for the introduction of this edition of Film and Shows adaptation.
And I am live talking about Preacher Season 3, Preacher Season 4. I cannot wait to get into it. Hopefully the microphone is working well this time around. Now, I will admit something. On this second viewing, I found Season 3 worst. Season 4 on the other end was actually quite good. So this TV show overall was very enjoyable. So now let's get into the plot of the third season of the Preacher TV show. So hopefully this time around it still works. Let's take a look to the plot in my notes. Are we... Apparently I got muted. My mic got muted. So I still have that weird issue with the mic, but I got a plan B. So let's get into the plan B right away, so we can still do the review without all of the weird sound glitches. I don't know what's up with that. It wasn't like that back then. Anyway, so the plot for season 3 of Preacher. Preacher G's Custer, lover Tulip, and vampire Cassidy all go to visit one preacher awful grandma. Witchcraft, monster hunt, and the Grail, seeking for a new messiah, are all part of the plot for this season. Now, if you haven't seen, I will spoil the entire thing. So let's start with the top 3 episodes of season 3. In third place, we got episode 4 with a 10 out of 10. In second place, we got episode 9 with a 10 out of 10. And my favorite episode in the third season is the third episode with a 10 out of 10. Now, the worst 3 episodes of season 3 of Preacher. In last place, we got season 3, episode 5 with a 7.5 out of 10. In second place, as the worst episode of season 3 of Preacher, we got episode 2 with a 7 out of 10. In the rock bottom of that season, and probably one of the worst episodes in the entire show as well, we got episode 8 of season 3 with a 7 out of 10. Now, there's a lot of issues with season 3. So let's get into my first issue. Pacing was bad in terms of runtime per episode. By trimming down and smashing episodes, you can end up with probably 6 to 8 episodes and tell the exact same story. Cassidy's subplot also felt so disconnected to what truly mattered, and it didn't push enough the characters outside of him making new friends and turning new vampires. It didn't change enough to justify giving him an entire subplot that's not even related to the main storyline. Now, I cannot understand why they tried to do that aspect of that season. I get it. We had a very similar storyline in the comics. But in the comics, it was done better because it was connected with the main storyline. G's Custer and Tulip were with Cassidy when we had the same story with the vampire. So it was all connected. Now it just feels like, oh, he is on his own adventure. It didn't work for me at all. So let's get into the second issue of the third season of Preacher. Dialogue was weird and weak in many instances. The third issue, the humor didn't quite work. I didn't laugh as much as season 1, 2, or even 4. I think the humor was lackluster that season, and I don't know what happened. Did they took the B team this time around? Did they emulate what Lucifer did in later seasons? I don't know. The last issue with season 3. Granny was a weak villain. She's the center of attention, and she doesn't really get any character arc. She's just bad to be bad. She wants to be immortal by any means necessary. She doesn't evolve past that despite saying she's like that out of fear. She doesn't resolve the fear. Now, I'll also say this. In the comics, she is very similar. But I think in the comics, she's far more interesting because there's less screen time with her. Now we got like almost probably 8 to 9 hours around Granny. In the comics, we had one book. And if you really translate one to one the book to a TV show, I don't think a full book is quite a full season. Not a 10 episode season for sure. Maybe a limited run of like 5 to 6 episodes. Sure. But 10 episode? Nah, it doesn't fit. Too short. Anyway, these were my issues. Let's get into the likes of season 3 because they are a redeemable aspect. And despite me not liking season 3 that much, well, I did like it, but it's not as good as the other 3 seasons. There are good things to say, so let's get into it. Great music, enjoyable cast of characters, and great actors. Casting of pretty much everyone was on point. Even the big fat F to remain user-friendly. Despite missteps, overall, some of the humor did work. The action was entertaining, the Saint coming back felt justified and great. Star and Preacher rivalry and unlikely team-up were both great. Tulip and Preacher relationship was great, and the flashbacks were helping giving a better understanding of Preacher, and that was great. The lore, as usual, was amazing, great at showing over telling. Themes and character arcs. Tulip came at a better understanding of Preacher and his dark side being brought up by the town he grew up in. Preacher embracing no longer holding back was cool when he took out Granny. He also accepted he is a bad guy despite trying to change. Cassidy needed to break away from Preacher and Tulip to create his own bonds and friendship elsewhere. And that was fine, I guess. Even if that was the filler subplot that could have been crafted better, it was something, right? Let's give credit where credit is due. Nice message about how full of BS religion can be. Cassidy breaking away from Preacher and Tulip made sense. Nice team of fighting loneliness in the Cassidy subplot. Nice team of trauma. Nice idea that everyone protects everyone in that season. Nice team of bigotry through the folks that are chasing down monsters and that are making them fight each other. That was very interesting. Nice growth from Preacher to admit Cassidy is his best friend. And overall, I think season 3 was slightly worse than what I remembered. And I will give a 8.5 out of 10. Now, my sound will cut off because the mic is acting weird. I will mark down timestamps. There we go. So we are back with season 4. Season 4, the other end, was far better. So we come from season 3 that had a 8.5 out of 10 to something that's much better. Both viewing, I had the same experience. And it's great. We need more of that. Now, season 4, let's get into it. We will start with the plot as usual. The Grell plots to end the world. Can Preacher stop it with the help of Tulip and Cassidy? Is free will important? This is a big question this season has. So again, I will spell the entire thing for those who haven't seen Preacher. This is your warning. So let's start with the worst 3 episode of Preacher final season, the end of that very cool TV show. In third place, we got episode 3 with a 9. In second place, we got episode 5 with the 8.5. And the worst episode of season 4 was episode 6 with the 8.5 as well. The top 3 episode of The Preacher final season. In last place, we got episode 2 with a 10. In second place, we got episode 9 with a 10. And the finale is the best episode, the great closure of that 4-season TV show. So let's get into my only issue, because season 4 was the best season and it also had the least amount of issues with it. So let's get into it. The humor did it rock bottom that season. Despite having funny moments spread out, most of the episode had lackluster attempts at humor. So it just kept the really bad trend season 3 started. Let's get into the likes of season 4. Amazing and natural ending to the story. The action was entertaining. Most of the saging did work throughout the season. The characters and villains were great. The season had far better pacing than previous season. I feel like they did all in that one. They were like, you know what? We will impress the gallery. We will impress everyone. Great music. Themes and character arcs. Cassidy giving up his life made sense because he was lonely and he lost his vampire friends and now he lost his human friends. It's only natural he is tapping out, you know. This is what vampire do it eventually if they don't find fulfillment anymore. Preacher not being able to love God was interesting. Cassidy shooting Panup out of selflessness was nice growth. So basically, the fake Messiah got shot by Cassidy out of like let have some mercy on that poor dog. Nice idea how nobody goes on board with God plan in the end. It's hilarious. Hilarious. I said it. Now, I just realized there's a bunch of the same notes that are coming back. God wanting people to self-destruct made sense. Also goes back to free will because he's like, I will give you the tool. Do it. Do it. Enjoy yourself. Self-destruct. Well, God being caught on a lie was kind of funny. So he was basically pretending he didn't know his fake Messiah was missing and then starving like, oh, you played me. And God is like, yeah, that was a funny aspect. Cassidy having grown more than Tulip was cool. The illusion about the plan being shattered for the loyal follower was interesting. So basically, we had the girl that was like willing to die for the cause, that kind of realized the cause was BS. That full world got shattered on that character, and that was very interesting. That was also just before that character died. Fascinating. Star being all about attractiveness was kind of funny. Cassidy trying to convince God to save the world was also very, very interesting. Humans were made at God's image, imperfect. The ideas of wanting to replace God is a sin in itself. Very interesting aspect. Well shown how God is merciless in this iteration of religion overall. Now, the test of fate was also very nice at some point, and Preacher becoming like God by taking away free will from people was also very interesting. And I will give this fourth and final season a 9.7. Now, this is a big talk we are having right now because it's the end of the show talk, and we will also cover some of the rotten tomato thingy there. So we will start with the top 5 episode and the worst 5 episode of the Preacher TV show. So, coming in 5th place in my top 5 episode of the Preacher TV show, season 1, episode 5 was a 10. In 4th place of the top 5 episode of the Preacher TV show, we got season 2, episode 7. In 3rd place, we got season 1, episode 6. In 2nd place, we got season 2, episode 3 with a 10. And my favorite episode in the Preacher TV show was season 1, episode 2. I think the Preacher TV show had great moment, great episode. Overall, the quality of the show is through the roof. Let's get into the worst 5 episode, and then we will go to the juicy ranking of the season, and we will also have a source of material talk that I almost forgot to have, and that's one of my favorite segments for this podcast. So let's get into the worst 5 episode that season, or I should say the entire show, the worst 5 episode in the entire Preacher TV show. So coming in last place, we got season 3, episode 8 with a 7. The second worst episode is season 3, episode 2 with a 7. The third worst episode is season 3, episode 5 with 7.5. The fourth worst episode was season 3, episode 6 with a 8.5. And in 5th place, we got season 1, episode 9 with the 8.5. So we see a trend. 4 out of the 5 worst episodes in the entire TV show are in season 3. I said it. So let's now move to the ranking of the seasons of the TV show. Coming in 4th place, no surprise, season 3 with a 8.5 out of 10. Coming in 3rd place, we got season 1 with a 9.5 out of 10. And in 2nd place, we got season 2 with another 9.5 out of 10. And my favorite season of the Preacher TV show is season 4 with a 9.7 out of 10. Now, this shall be the source of material segment. sorry about the very long musical moment there. I needed to catch up with the missing timestamp. So we will dive deep into the source of material segment. So season 4 sees Arseface embracing a rock star persona. It's right from the comics. Star losing is sausage was accurate to the comics, and again, I try to remain user friendly. At some point, Preacher is believed to be dead and loses an eye. It's again taken from the comics. The Saint teaming up with Preacher was also accurate to the comics. Cassidy being mistreated by the Grail was also accurate to the comics. Overall, this season was the most accurate to the comics. Well deserved 10 out of 10 when it comes to how accurate this is. And again, the big change they had with R's face in the comics, R's pew pew like that. Not over a lady he essayed, but over him idolizing Kurt Cobain. We all know the story with Kurt Cobain, a very sad one, but that marked people. And I think it was also a product of its time because the comics were late 90s, early 2000, and this is what happened. So, that being said, um, I think the change they did with the essay thing did work very well with the TV show. And again, a lot of the aspects of this final season of Preacher really reflects well the comics. Now, we had a very interesting talk. Let's read some of the comments on the internet on Rotten Tomato about the Preacher TV show. We will look into season 1 and season 4 to see if there's a drop off among the people. We won't really dive deep into 2 or 3. But yeah, let's just screen share now. There we go. So we can see the audience gave a 75% and the critique 87, fulfilling a promise to his deceased father. One-time outlaw G. Scosser returns to West Texas to take over his dad's church. That's how they framed the TV show. So now, because my mic is doing weird things, I will drag down the thing and then I will be muted for a few seconds. So as we can see, it's the same premise, but now it's more like the season 1 more specifically. So season 1 was Beloved. And I just realized I also forgot to mention the entire show for me is a 9.7. It's a solid show. It's a great show. I like both viewing of it. Anyway, to get back to Rotten Tomato, the critique of season 1 gave a 89%, which is quite high, and the audience 84. They are very similar. So now let's read out some of the comments. Preacher. Reconception may have been necessary, but it seemed to have gone too far in a direction opposite the comics. I disagree. It's not so far off. Like I can see like Custer is not an outlaw in the comics, and Tulip and and Custer are really the love story of the century in the comics, and it's not quite the case with the TV show. But to say it's direction opposite to the comics, I don't know. I think it's a bit harsh. I won't say it's a one-to-one adaptation, but it does have changes. Like, if I remember correctly, season one, uh, we had the saint and we had the angels that are trying to get Genesis back, and really early. I think it was like book one, probably. That's or maybe later on. I remember book two is the book with grandma. Um, yeah, book two is the book with grandma, I think. So I don't know, but anyway, Allison Ehrman gave a rotten score to the TV show from the Ridger. Winley Ma, news.com AU. Preacher's energy is apparent from the opening frame. Even if you find it initially confusing, you'll be glued because of the seductive power of the series' darkly irreverent and anarchic tone and happy twists. And that's a fresh score. Now, I will be honest, I've read the Preacher comic like quite some time ago, so maybe Allison is hitting a nerve because I remember the vampire stuff with season 3, or book 3, I should say, and Grandma was definitively book 1 or 2. So Grandma was before the vampire stuff. And I remember book 4 was a lot about Coster bonding with his mother while Tulip was thinking he was dead. And at some point earlier, it wasn't quite at the end, that Cassidy got captured and they needed to save him. So actually, no. So I think book 4, um, Cassidy was captured and Preacher wanted to save him. And book 5 is the book where Preacher bonded with Mother. And book 6 is when Star went after Preacher to basically take his revenge. So there are similar things. I'd say it's maybe taking liberties for sure. This I agree, especially with how Arseface became Arseface, and how Arseface. I'd say Arseface is the most different character from the comics. Yeah, and the messaging around Arseface is about Me Too in the TV show, while in the comics is more like about how people listen to music and they don't care really that much about the lyrics, even if there are lyrics. And there's also the cancel culture in it, but it's not the same kind. Um, yeah. So let's read out other comments. So the next one is a B. Jeff Jensen. For all its frustration, season 1 was always funny and always fun to watch with a B. So that's a fresh score there. Kenichi Enichiro, Confession from a Geek Mind. 2.5 out of 5, so that'd be a 5. A good show in the making, but sadly left me disappointed. I feel you. I feel you. Now let's read the audience. From the get-go, the first review, Caitlin A, with 1.5 star, so that'd be like a 3 out of 10. Slow and tedious. I feel that was one of my issues as well. I was interested in the story, but it was painful to get through. editing, shooting, direction feel clumsy. I get that. The next one, 4 stars. So that'd be 2 stars. 2 stars. That'd be a 4 out of 10. It's above average when it came out, but for a show that's not even meant to be consumed by religious people, it's real. I don't know that word. Maybe I should zoom out, but yeah. So that person didn't like it that much. So let's read out the next comment. There we go. Okay, it's strayed from the comics, but it's still so much better than 95% of the Driveville being made. Watch it and be entertained. Well, season 4 adapted very well parts of the comics, but I understand the early parts of the show are very different from the comics. This I agree. Violence is too much, but actually I like it, and that's something that's right from the comics. That aspect is right from the comics. The comics were very violent. So overall, audience and critique, most of them, like the consensus is they liked it, but it's straight away from the comics, and I can see the critique. Again, the early season that was the case, but the later season they kind of took more pieces from the comics and adapted very well what they didn't do in prior seasons. Anyway, let's get into season 4 Rotten Tomato now. From the get go, that's a 77% for the critique and a 61% from the audience. So that's a season that's not as liked as the first season. And I can see why. I strongly disagree, but hey, to each their own. So let's read out the comments of the folks on season 4. There we go. So, the first critique, James Wynell, Empire Magazine, 6 out of 10. Hopefully, Preacher will wrap up successfully and keep finding new ways to offend as many people as possible. Okay. But the feeling certainly that it's time to let the show go. The end, yeah, I agree with that. Preacher exists at the fringes of golden age television, erudite, boundary pushing, but also bloody, profane, and decidedly niche. And that's another fresh score. So we got 2 fresh scores in a row. So the next one, Alex Mouy, Joe Blow Movies Network. 6 out of 10. Add the showrunners elected to call this series by a different name. It may have been a modest hit or cult classic. Instead, AMC's Preacher is a series that just share the title with the iconic comic. You know what? That's the one season I disagree with that person. Because season 4 adapted a lot of things straight up from the comics. The lead up to it is different, I do agree. And there are things the show didn't touch that the comics did. Again, G's Coster bonding with Mother, and the entire Tulip and Preacher relationship was quite different in the comics as well. But, but, it did adapt a lot of the comics. And I don't know. I disagree with that very common belief. I feel like maybe they only read one book and they're like, oh, it's different. Of course, it's different. There are 6 books and there are 4 seasons. Very different. 6 out of 10 rotten. Very interesting. So one said it was fresh, the other rotten. Okay. The back half of Preacher will have to pull a miracle out of the bag for this not to be remembered as disappointment and a missed opportunity. I feel that. So, mixed reviews up to now. So, 8 out of 10, a chaotic, darkly funny, and underrated adaptation. Preacher is unapologetically weird, violent, and blasphemous, and yet enjoyable. Neil M. Jovi G. I've revised my original opinion. The show is full of sadness, disillusionment, and rage at the belief system that doesn't, uh, how do we say it? That doesn't deliver. That'd be the best guess I have. Oh, they said that doesn't make sense. Interesting. So let's read out the last 2 rotten review. Which is fascinating. 2 rotten score. Half a star for both. Hector T. Complete disrespect of God. This is beyond blasphemy. People should wake up and stop disrespecting our Lord and Savior. Yeah, but it's fiction, my friend. I guess if you're a religious person that can hit a chord, I can see that. So if you're religious, don't watch Preacher, basically. Now, Bruno V. That guy, I don't speak his English, his language. So 2.5 star. So people overall, they didn't quite like the ending of the show. Interesting. Anyway, that was our big discussion. Maybe I'm crazy to enjoy that much the ending of the TV show. I think the TV show, again, overall was very fun. 9.7 out of 10, with my favorite season being So, yeah, the last season. Cannot wait for that call to be really solved. Anyway, this is the outro, anyway, and we are out. So, basically, what happens in the next few streams? We are playing some Resident Evil Requiem. We are doing Politics Saturday. We are talking about movies Tuesday, most likely Batman and Batman Return, the 80s, right? And next Wednesday there's no mainstream, so we will Requiem our way out. Maybe eventually we will finish the game. And that's the planning for the next few days. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, have a great week, and take care. See you soon for more reviews or a gaming stream. Have a good one. I'm out.